All right, so let's talk about media. Let's begin the conversation with media. As you know, one of the biggest problems in Hollywood right now is a lack of representation, in particular Latinx representation. Only 3% of the top 100 films in 2016 were given to Latinx actors, et cetera. Why has that happened? And how do we collectively change that?
I mean, look, it goes back to the beginning of content creation, right? So, most Latinos came to or Latinx people. It's always complicated to get there, right? Latinxes, came to this country whenever they did, whether it was 5 generations ago or whether the border moved to include them in the U.S. Whatever that story is, to be part of this bigger country. And I think that part of assimilation has been, watching Hollywood movies and TV shows, right? And so there was a certain sort of accepting of the content that was being created. And because of that, the Latinx community has always been a big movie-going community, if we're talking about movies, and always over-indexed. And so there was a feeling that you didn't need to do anything to bring them in, right? And Salma Hayek once famously said, that's like saying, a big Hollywood studio had said, we're not going to worry about the Latinx market because they're already going. We need to focus on China and other places. And Salma Hayek's response to that was, that's like saying, my wife is really happy, so I'm going to go find a lover. Right. It's like, why wouldn't you continue to try to create content and make them happier? And we all know that when a movie, has some sort of Latin element, it can over-index depending on how it's for our market. So of course you'd want to do that. But I think it's taken a long time to catch up with it. I think to catch up with reality and to say we do have to change the dynamic. And the problem is you don't have executives who are Latinx. I mean, I realize the irony of a gringo saying all this, but like when we go out with our TV shows and pitch them, if there's a Latinx executive in the room, the chances of selling the show go up tremendously because you're talking about things that they're going to relate to. We'll bring in a writer, let's say a Mexican-American writer who's talking about his relationship with his parents and he's developed a sitcom around it. If there's somebody in the room that can relate to that, there's a much better chance of selling that show. If you sell that show, then they're going to need actors, and they're going to have to cast actors. So you look at it at that level, and you already have that problem. And then you look at it on the level of like children's programming, which we're really starting to focus on now. I mean, Nickelodeon has been a feeder for so many stars.
Dora, that just came out.
Exactly. Dora being a positive example, but they haven't been as focused on Latin. They are now, and we actually are developing a show with them. But that's also a feeder system that hasn't been feeding in enough. I think Disney's made a big change into that too. They're all trying to focus differently, but it's only starting now. And for that machine to actually kind of work through all those levels, so you're talking about kids programming, family programming, all the way up, and you're talking about executives, all these different areas have to be built at the same time. So it's a daunting task, but you have to start chipping away at it.